Hello everyone, I'm your science instructor and today in this video we are going to start with part 2 of life process, that is respiration. So let's explore respiration now. The topics which we are going to cover in this video are: first, we'll learn about the introduction of respiration. Second, we'll make out the difference between the respiration and breathing. Third, we'll move on to the different types of respiration. Next, we'll cover the different organs which are involved in the respiration, characteristics of those respiratory organs. Next, we'll study about the respiration in human beings. We'll cover the respiratory disorders also. Then we'll do the plant respiration, and last, we'll do the photosynthesis versus respiration. So I think you are ready to start with this topic. So let's start and explore the respiration. Now let's start with the introduction about respiration. So what actually is respiration? See, this is not a new phenomena. We all are actually aware of it because in our daily routine we carry out this phenomena, and it is the essential phenomena which we have to carry out in order to survive. So in order to learn more about respiration, just look at this picture. Can you look at this picture and make out that what this boy is doing? You can see that he is inhaling something, he's taking inside something, and he is giving out something, right? So this is what is the respiration. It is not only limited to the taking in and giving out, right? It involves lot of different steps. The process involves lot of different steps in it. So as you can see that he is taking something inside, right? The question is this: what is he taking inside? As you all know that in our atmosphere we have air, and air is actually the mixture of gases. So out of those gases we take in oxygen and we give out the air, that is carbon dioxide. Now you must be wondering that from where the CO2 is coming. See, when you take in oxygen, CO2 is produced inside the body and then it is given out. But taking in oxygen and giving out CO2 is not only called as respiration. It involves series of steps. This phenomena, that is taking in, giving out, is just a small step which is called as breathing. Breathing is also a part of respiration. So I think it's clear, you have an idea now that what actually we are going to cover in this topic. That is, we are going to focus that what gas we are taking in, how we are taking in, and what we do with that gas, right? And which gas we are giving out, how it is produced, how it is transported, how it is produced, and how we give out. So this all we are going to cover in this chapter. So I think the basic thing is clear, that you know that the phenomena which we are going to take up is already known to you. So I think the introduction part is over. Now we can move on to the next part. Now let's start with another topic, that is breathing versus respiration. You know that few days back I met my two friends. Let's say my friend name was, one was Shalini and other was Varsha. Right. I asked Shalini that which phenomena is essential in order to survive. So Shalini replied that respiration is very important. Right. And when I asked the same question from Varsha, she said that breathing is very important. So I asked them that, do you know that what exactly is respiration, what exactly is breathing? So both were like answering the same thing, but they were using the different terms. Like one was saying respiration, another was saying breathing. So I told them and clarified them that though the both terms are synonyms, right? But actually they have different meaning. They look like synonyms, but they have different meanings. So let's focus that what exactly is the difference between the respiration and the breathing. Now, as I told you that when we in order to survive, we take in oxygen and we give out CO2. So taking in oxygen and giving out CO2 is breathing, right? So why we are taking in oxygen, or you can say how it is being transported to different body cells, or what is the use of oxygen, or how it is being used in order to produce energy, or you can say how the carbon dioxide is produced, that is not covered in breathing. Breathing is simply the exchange of gases, that is taking in oxygen and giving out CO2. This is what is breathing. It is limited only to this phenomena, that is the exchange of gases. Right. One thing I would like to clear you, like every time when I'm explaining, I'm telling you that we are taking in oxygen and we are giving out CO2. But in case of plants, right, they photosynthesize and they also carry on the respiration part. So when they are respiring, they are like taking in oxygen and giving out CO2. But when they are photosynthesizing, they take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. So if I talk about the organisms, right, the most of us means everybody, they take in oxygen and they give out CO2. But in case of plants, while they photosynthesize, they do a reversal. That is, they take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. But when they are respiring, they do the same thing as we do. That is taking oxygen and giving out the carbon dioxide. So don't get confused with this exchange. I think you got it. But if I talk about respiration, that is quite a complex process, because it involves the breathing also, and also it involves the cellular respiration. That is, it involves the taking in oxygen, that is we are taking in air, and then how that air, or you can say that oxygen gas gets diffused to blood, it involves that also. And how the blood carries to different cells, what the cell actually do with that oxygen, and then how the CO2 is produced, and then how the CO2 moves out, that all is covered in respiration. So respiration is quite complex process. So I am going to simplify this process for you, and we are going to cover the whole process of respiration in just 3 lines, right? So the first thing you're going to define like this, that respiration means intake of oxygen. So this is the first point, that is taking in oxygen. Second is, we are utilizing that oxygen for the breakdown of food. Right, so this is the fate of this oxygen which we have inhaled, that it is going to carry out the breakdown of food, and when the food is broken down, it produces the energy, right, and along with that we get carbon dioxide and water vapor. So this is the second point, and then the removal of carbon dioxide. So I think you got it. Now this complex process can be covered in just 3 points. Intake of oxygen. Second, oxidation of food. Oxidation of food simply means breakdown of food in order to produce carbon dioxide, energy and water vapor. And third, right, that is giving out carbon dioxide. So now we are going to stress on the types of respiration. So broadly we can classify the respiration into 2 categories. One we have is the aerobic respiration, and other we have is the anaerobic respiration. Right. So let's start with the first thing, that is the aerobic respiration. But before we start with the aerobic respiration, I want you to know, or you can say recall, I want you to recall about the cell. So just look at this picture. So I think you can recognize it, that it is a cell. So what cell actually possess? It has a covering, that is a cell membrane. Then inner to it we have the fluid, and this fluid is called as cytoplasm, and we have the nucleus in the center which possess the nuclear material. And apart from that, in cytoplasm we get to see the different shaped structures. They are called as organelles. What are they called as? They are organelles. So we come across different organelles. Like you can see that there is a Golgi apparatus, there is mitochondria, we have the lysosomes, we have the vacuole. So there are so many organelles which are present in the cell. That is the reason the cell is called as eukaryotic cell. That is the advanced type of cell. I told you this just because I want you to be familiar with the terms, because when I'm going to explain about the aerobic or the anaerobic respiration, I will mention the organelles. Few of the organelles are involved in that. So let's start with aerobic respiration now. So in aerobic respiration, the respiration occurs in presence of oxygen. Aerobic respiration occurs in presence of oxygen. And the organisms which show aerobic respiration, they are called as aerobes. They are called as aerobes. Now, what are the examples for the aerobes? We'll cover that after understanding that what exactly is the aerobic respiration. So, in aerobic respiration, what actually happens that we have the food in the form of glucose. The simple form of food, that is the glucose, is there in the cell. Then this glucose breaks down into pyruvic acid. This glucose breaks down into the pyruvic acid. Glucose is a 6-carbon compound and pyruvic acid is a 3-carbon compound. Now, this breakdown of glucose into pyruvic acid is termed as glycolysis. As the name suggests, glycolysis, that means lysis means breakdown, glyco means breakdown of glucose. So this is how you're going to define the glycolysis, that is the breakdown of glucose into a 3-carbon compound, that is pyruvic acid. And this conversion is occurring in the fluid of the cell, that is called as cytoplasm. For the glycolysis, the oxygen is not required. That means it is oxygen independent process. I think you got it. That is the glycolysis, that is the breakdown of glucose into pyruvic acid, occurs in cytoplasm, and it is oxygen independent process. That is, it doesn't require the availability of oxygen. Then this pyruvic acid, in presence of oxygen, because it is aerobic respiration, and I told you in aerobic respiration the presence of oxygen is mandatory. So pyruvic acid in presence of oxygen gets converted into the energy, then we get carbon dioxide and we get the water vapor. Now this conversion is called as Krebs cycle. It is called as Krebs cycle and it occurs in the organelle that is called as the mitochondria. It occurs in the organelle, a rod-shaped organelle, which is called as mitochondria. So I think you got it. That is, in aerobic respiration, the first thing that will occur is the glycolysis, which occurs in cytoplasm, oxygen independent process, and then the Krebs cycle occurs, that is the conversion of pyruvic acid into carbon dioxide, chemical form of energy, that is ATP, and water vapor, and it occurs in the organelle which is called as mitochondria. Now moving on to this energy, like I told that energy is produced. Now how the energy is produced, what actually is the form in which the energy is produced? So energy is produced in a body in a chemical form that is called as ATP. Now what is the full form for this ATP? We can expand it in a way, adenosine triphosphate. It is called as adenosine triphosphate and it is also called as currency of cell. Now let's talk about the currency. Why it is called as currency of the cell? Currency is something which you can spend. Like if I have currency in my purse, I can spend it and I can buy something. Right. Likewise, the cell has the currency in the form of energy and it can spend it and carry on the certain processes which is actually very important for the cell. So the chemical form of energy means currency of cell, which again signifies the ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So in aerobic respiration, one glucose breaks down in order to form the energy, and how much energy or how many ATPs are formed? You can see that 38 ATPs are formed. That means the breakdown of one glucose forms 38 molecules of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, which is quite efficient production. But if we talk about the anaerobic respiration, the first thing is that it occurs in absence of oxygen. The oxygen is not there. So if we look at the processes which are occurring in it, so just have a look. In it, the glucose breaks down into pyruvic acid, right? The same thing which was happening in the aerobic respiration, that is occurring in the anaerobic also. That is the breakdown of glucose into pyruvic acid, oxygen independent process. The same thing, it is occurring in the cytoplasm, and the same term is being used, that is glycolysis. So this first step is common in both the respiration, aerobic as well as anaerobic. Now, after the glycolysis, what will happen to the pyruvic acid now? The difference lies here, because in anaerobic, there is no oxygen present. So, in absence of oxygen, this pyruvic acid gets converted into some other chemical compound, and along with that, it produces energy. Again, the currency of cell, which is called as ATP, but 2 ATPs are formed in this case. And then we get the water vapor. I think you got it. And in this case, the second step is not termed as Krebs cycle. There is no specific term which is used for this second step, the conversion of pyruvic acid into energy, chemical compound and water vapor. So there is no such specific term which is being used for this process. I think you got it. Now let's talk about few examples that who are called as aerobes and who are termed as anaerobes. So the one which respire in presence of oxygen, they are termed as aerobes. Like me, like you, like we all. Right, so we need oxygen to respire. But if I talk about the anaerobes, there are microorganisms around which fall in this category, like we have yeast. So let us focus now that where this anaerobic respiration take place and what chemical compounds do we get. This process is shown by microorganisms. As you all are aware of the breweries, you know that in breweries, the hard drinks like whiskeys, beer, they are formed. But how they are formed? They are basically alcohols. But how they are formed? They are formed by the process called fermentation. Now, what this term signifies? This term means that the breakdown of complex substance into simple substance by the action of microorganisms. And those microorganisms respire anaerobically, that is in absence of oxygen. And in breweries, the chemical compound which is formed is none other than the alcohol. And which alcohol? It is ethanol, which is the main constituent of hard drinks. So I think you are familiar with this example now. Now the second example, as I told you that we all, one of our part, respire anaerobically. And what is that part? That is the muscles. Now, suppose you are exercising, right? You are doing a vigorous exercise. So, at that time, the muscles are showing the anaerobic respiration. So, what they exactly do? What happens in them? The glucose gets converted into pyruvic acid. That is, the glycolysis take place in a similar manner. Then, this pyruvic acid, in absence of oxygen, break down to form lactic acid. We get 2 ATPs and water vapor. Now, where would it go? Right. So, this lactic acid will move into liver and get stored. So, in normal conditions, what happens? The fate of this lactic acid is that it will move to liver and it will get stored. But when you are exercising, your energy requirement becomes quite high. You need more energy. And in this case, one glucose is producing just 2 ATPs. So, in that case, your energy requirement will increase. So, more and more glucose will get oxidized in order to meet the energy requirement. Because in this case, one glucose is forming just 2 ATPs and our requirement is quite high. So, more glucose will break down to form more energy, but along with that energy, obviously the lactic acid will also be formed. So, the increased energy is utilized by us as per our energy requirement. But what is the fate of this lactic acid? Now, where will it go? This lactic acid will actually get temporarily stored in the muscles of leg. And that is the reason when you do vigorous exercise, you feel fatigue after some time. And you have to take rest for a while in order to be a in order to be in active state again. So the reason being that when you rest, this lactic acid which is produced moves to the liver and gets stored, and now in muscles there is no accumulation of lactic acid which is left, and the normal processes are being carried out, and that is the reason after resting you feel active. So I think you got it, that what do we mean by aerobic respiration and what do we mean by anaerobic respiration. And one more thing, you may encounter a question like this in paper: why do we feel fatigue during vigorous exercise? So you have to answer in a way, just listen to me carefully. While we are exercising, our energy requirement becomes high. While we are exercising, our energy requirement becomes high. So in general, what happens in muscle, that glucose breaks down into pyruvic acid, and then that pyruvic acid breaks down into lactic acid. Along with it we get 2 ATPs and we get water vapor. So this is the general reaction, or you can say the general process which is occurring in a muscle. But when we are exercising, our energy requirement becomes high. So to meet that requirement, more and more glucose start breaking down. And when it breaks up, it forms more and more ATPs. So those ATPs are fulfilling our energy requirement. But along with that, the lactic acid is also produced, and this increased amount of lactic acid gets temporarily stored in a muscle, and due to which we feel fatigue. But this fatigueness vanishes when you rest for a while, because again the normal process starts. Now let's study about the different modes of respiration. So what do we mean by different modes? Different modes means that what are the different respiratory organs that are being used in the different kind of organisms for the process that is respiration. As you all know that we have a complex body structure. Like in us, the differentiation is up to organ level, because we have cells also, we have tissues also, we have organ also, and we have well-developed organ system also. But if I compare myself with amoeba, as you can see in the picture, you can see that it is a primitive kind of organism, or because it is a unicellular, so we can say that it has a primitive structure. It doesn't possess the organ level classification. How am I going to respire and how amoeba is going to respire? So in this topic we are going to focus that how the different organisms respire, what are the different organs which are actually involved, or what organs we come across which are meant for respiration. So the first thing is that we see a respiration that is called as cuticular respiration. This kind of respiration refers to the respiration where the organism respires through its general body surface, that is through skin. Through skin it is taking in the gases, and through skin it is giving out the gases. It doesn't possess any specialized organ which is meant for respiration. So this kind of respiration is occurring through a general body surface, or you can say a respiration which occurs through skin. So in amoeba we see this kind of respiration, and not only amoeba, there are a lot more organisms, unicellular organisms, which possess the primitive cell structure, and they respire in this manner, that is through their general body surface, or you can call it as the cuticular respiration, that is the exchange is occurring through skin. Now the question must be coming in your mind that why can't I respire through skin? Why do I possess lungs for it? We have lungs as a respiratory organ. So why can't we respire through skin? So the reason being that on skin actually there is a thick covering that is called as cuticle. So in our case that cuticle is quite thick in order to minimize the loss of water. But in case of these organisms, the cuticle is quite thin, which can allow the exchange of gases. But in us, that exchange cannot occur. Or you can say that exchange is not sufficient in order to fulfill the energy requirement. Moving on to the another kind of respiration, that is the branchial respiration. So whenever the organism respires through a respiratory organ which is called as gills, the respiration is termed as branchial respiration. It is shown by fishes, most of the aquatic organisms, they respire through gills. And this is how the gills look like. So you have fishes as an example, a common example, they respire through gills. So that means their mode of respiration is termed as branchial respiration. That is the respiration that occurs through gills. Now, moving on to the next respiration, we have the another mode called as tracheal respiration. So, in tracheal respiration, the trachea is involved. Trachea is the windpipe. You know that we do possess the trachea, we have the windpipe, but to fulfill the oxygen requirement or to fulfill the energy requirement, we require lungs. And inside the lungs also, we'll study that there are partitions are present which actually makes the respiration in an efficient manner. The another type of mode is the tracheal respiration. Tracheal respiration is a respiration where the organism respires through trachea. The trachea is called as windpipe. We also possess that windpipe. We also possess the trachea. But in order to meet our gaseous requirement, the amount of gas which we need for the oxidation of food is quite high. So that is the reason we have the another specialized organ meant for that. We cannot respire just through trachea. So tracheal respiration is shown by the organism like grasshopper. So their energy requirement or the gaseous requirement can be easily fulfilled by this windpipe, which is called as the trachea, and the respiration mode is the tracheal respiration. Now moving on to the advanced mode that we possess is the pulmonary respiration, in which the lungs are present. And you know that the lungs are so beautifully designed that inside the lungs we have the different partitions which actually make the respiration in an efficient manner, and it helps in fulfilling our energy requirement or the gaseous requirement, whatever you can say, because the energy production, the gaseous requirement is almost linked to each other. Because when you are taking in oxygen, your gaseous requirement is being fulfilled, then only you can utilize that gas for the oxidation of food and you'll get the energy. Now we are done with different modes of respiration. Now let's start that what are the characteristics which makes the organ to act as a respiratory organ, or you can say that what essential features the respiratory organ must possess. So the first thing is that it should have the thin membrane. It should have the thin membrane. So all the respiratory organs, or you can say the efficient respiratory organ, possess the thin membrane. The second thing is that the membrane should be permeable. That means it should allow the exchange of gases. It should not restrict the movement. It should allow the movement. It should facilitate the movement. Third is it should be highly vascular. That means the blood supply should be high, because the blood is going to take that inhaled air and is going to distribute in all body parts. So it should be highly vascular. The fourth thing is it should be moist. It should be moist. It should not be dry. The reason being, which means it is moving from the place where it was more to a place where its concentration was less. So the diffusion process increases if the membrane is thin, if the surface is moist, and if the permeability is high. Even I told you that the organs should be vascular. That means it should have high blood supply. The reason being high blood supply, that means when the air comes in, the blood immediately takes that air and the rate of diffusion will increase. So it should be thin, it should be moist, it should be permeable. Fourth, I told you it should be vascular. And last thing is that it should possess large surface area, because large surface area means more exchange, and these characteristics should be possessed by an organ to act as a respiratory organ. So with this we finish the characteristics of respiratory organ.